Hi, welcome you all to the Crypto Singh Show, and my name is Gunpreet Singh, and we talk about Bitcoin, NFTs, metaverse, everything related to cryptocurrency on this channel. What's happening with the Bitcoin market? What was this dump all about? Everything on this show today. We'll dive deep into it, what happened, and what is the next move or what's going to happen for Bitcoin in future. Well, everything in this show. Before we move on, please do like, share, and subscribe. Now, what's happening with the Bitcoin market? What happened? What was that dump all about? Well, S&P US stock market collapsed in 2 years. This was the biggest collapse they've seen of about around 4%. And 4% on a single day is a huge collapse that has happened. Now, the question is, why is this happening? What was so important that happened yesterday that the Bitcoin market or the US stock market had a collapse? Well, it was a collapse for the stock market. Bitcoin volatility 10% is usual. But saying that, in my last video, if you had seen, I told you don't get bullish about it. And it is a bearish sentiment. And if you see in my last video, I told you these are the people who were bearish when we were at 17,000 and they were bullish when we were at 22,000. Those are the YouTube influencers. It's not about them. It's how the market really works. We really need to understand the market rather than the influencers. It's not always about them pitching it that we're going up, we're going down. You check all my videos. In fact, last video, I exactly said the same thing. And this is when we had crossed 22,000. I said, don't get bullish on it. This is again bearish. And what happened? We went down. Now what's causing this coming down of the Bitcoin market? Is it just about the pricing? It is just about the data, the consumer data which had come out. Now the CPI did come out, and the inflation is again rising. There's no way for the Fed to control it. Now you have to understand that what's happening with the Bitcoin market, because even if you're not in cryptocurrency, it's important for you to understand you may be in stock market. Now stock market or cryptocurrency or everything, they'll work hand in hand, or if not, I'm sure you're in gold. So everything would go hand in hand with this kind of economic crisis that's coming in. And in my opinion, I did say about 2 months back that we are in a recession, but it was, the YouTuber, everyone was pitching in that we are not in recession. These are the times that Bitcoin has never seen. And hence we're seeing this cycle where we're going down again in Bitcoin, touching 19,500. Now people have been talking about why have we been seeing these lows and what's happening last time in the last bull cycle. So something that's happening now has actually never ever happened in the entire history of economic crisis. The amount of money that's been printed has never happened before. It's in fact, forget being it happening before, the total that has happened till now, in past 2 years, the money that they printed, they've not printed in decades that much money. It's almost equal to probably an economy of a country. So try and understand the amount that has been printed. Try and understand the the numbers we're looking at. So inflation had to be high. Now what is Fed trying to do is to decrease the inflation, or they're trying to hike up the interest prices or the base point, which would make the borrowing of money more expensive. Now, what does that mean? Now, well, that would mean there are only two ways they could do it. Either print more money, which causes more inflation. Either increase the interest rate, which causes people to, which makes it tough for people to borrow money. Now, if it's tough to borrow money, what happens is there's going to be less spending in the market, and there's going to be less jobs being created. Now, because the companies have already used this money, people have used this money to invest. Now, if you refinance your mortgage, you are going to get, where you were getting 2% last year, you're going to be getting 6% of the mortgage money, which is a huge number, which to bring it down definitely means that we are in a recession. The US market is in a recession. Now, what will happen is we have a PPI coming tomorrow now, which is Producer Price Index, which I think relatively would give a bounce in the stock market again and in the crypto market. So I personally think that first the producers would be affected and then the end consumers. Whereas it's not a big data. It's not it is a big data, but it's not going to affect a lot. But saying that, we might get a bounce there, and I'm hopeful that producer price index would come down, would actually come down. So I personally think that that should be fine and we should get another bounce. But please try and understand, it's not about that. And I'll show you in charts also what I mean. It's a very important show today. You must see this till the end, because it's not just about stock. It's not just about crypto. It's not about gold. It's about everything together. It's about the market. It's about the economy, where we're heading to and what's happening. Well, one side we have China, where the house recession is about to come and the prices have started going down, and so the same as in US. Well, there are two reasons for it. One reason is the higher interest rates in US, whereas China, what has happened, they did a population control. Now, what has happened with population control is they did control the population, but now there are less people to buy the houses because there isn't any population which wants houses. Second are the lockdown that they've done, and they've been doing these lockdowns again and again, which will bring the market down. Which is bringing the market down. And let me tell you, India, China, US, all these wars are economic wars. These aren't nuclear wars anymore. So if China comes down, US is heavily invested, and so is China heavily invested in US. So that brings the economy down. What effects are we seeing is because the Chinese buyers are also not buying more of real estate now, and that itself will bring down the real estate market. So if you actually see, China has been buying real estate everywhere, Australia, New Zealand, US, everywhere in the world. So the strategy is to buy real estate. And if the real estate has been coming down, they would feel the money crunch, and their country themselves is going through a real estate crisis. Same with US. We have inflation high. People aren't spending more because the borrowing of money is tough and is more expensive, so people would spend less. Real estate prices have started to come down. So what do you expect? Recession. Now, if they lower the interest rates, what happens with this is they have to print more money, and the economy actually goes into a bigger bubble than that, and they need to control that because that bubble will be again. So I think it's something that is absolutely tough for any kind of country, because if they print more money, the inflation will go higher. Now, do they control inflation, or do they control job loss? Do they control the stock markets coming down? Do they control the land prices coming down? What do they control? I think it's something that they can't control, and I personally feel next week would be about 1 basis point or 0.75 basis point that they would again increase, making money tougher to borrow because inflation is again soaring up, and they don't want the inflation to go up higher because it's going to be one of the biggest crises that we are going to see. Now, what led to these crises was, again, we have to realize recession usually is something that goes for a 1.5 to 2 year. Now, what happened in COVID is they tried to probably fake this recession in a way that they covered up with printing money. Now, the recession was done in about 2 to 3 months. Now, if the recession is covered up in 3 months, try and understand, it's the biggest. What happened in COVID? There was lockdowns. There was no one working. There was no company producing anything. There were no workers. Everyone was sitting home. In 4 months, we were touching all-time highs. Well, I think that itself, it's like, from a layman language, let's look at it logically. Does this really make sense to us? If you are in a company or you're running a business and that is not performing even that's not producing anything for a month, and after a month, you are telling people that you've touched all-time high sales. How is that even possible? So that definitely means that you got the money from somewhere to pump the company up, and this money and they didn't create those many sales though, but they just showed that the company is cash rich, but the money was all loaned, money was all given by the bankers, and now this borrowing of money, which was 2%, is about 6%. So I have to pay 3 times the money that I was paying. That's one thing. Other thing is inflation. At that point of time, the product I was buying was about X price. Now today that's almost 10x. So money is 3x to me. The product I'm buying is 10x to me. It's unbelievable what's happening around the world. So I don't think there is anything in this that we need to really understand, that, this is a cycle that goes on. If I have the money, I'm going to go out and spend. I'm going to go buy, probably the first thing is grocery shopping. Then I would get into the luxury products and, keep on buying land, everything. But this borrowing of money has become 3 times more expensive for the US, and the inflation has become 10 times more expensive than your gas prices, your any price that you've been using and regularly. You can actually check the prices, what's happening. So in all, this recession has been hitting us really badly. Now, this is where the Bitcoin price dumped down. Now, it did dump down. Now, it dumped to about 10 to 12%, and stock market had the biggest crash in 2 years. And that's huge. There's no news, there's nothing. There's just one data, and we crashed about 4%. Just imagine, this is when we crashed at the time of COVID. So try and understand the implication of this, that we crashed 4%, and which is huge on CPI data, but I think we're going to pump a bit more. And this definitely means that market is accepting, and it got everyone off guard about the inflation data, which people were not expecting, and it just dumped down. And people are still expecting now that the economy, it's going to be very difficult. We will enter the recession, and recession would mean job losses, would mean the reset of the economy. But this reset would mean one of the biggest economic crises that we will see in coming future. It's not going to be small, because what money they had to print to get the economy out of economic crisis have been printed. Now what happens? Now there's nothing they can do actually. So all they can do is look, see how the markets react, how the job losses are, and what happens next. That is what is happening. Now, one country that would actually get saved from all this, and mark my words, would be India. And saying that, a lot of the world would get under, Europe is already under recession, and they are facing a huge problem about the energy. So US housing market and inflation everywhere. So any country that you see is actually facing these crises, but India will be saved because of so many reasons. And I personally think that the next 10 years for Indian economy would be one of the biggest, would be the golden time and the golden opportunity. Saying that, the governments have to take the right decisions now. And I think we are at a spot where if the governments take the right decision, India would lead this way through, and they would come out as winner in coming 10 years. And it's a golden period that India would have, because if you have China going into recession, they have their own problems. US going into recession, they have their own problems. India can solve this issue, and India is still a growing market. And I think if it all the businesses, all the technology comes to India, India will grow way, way faster than anyone else. And I think the recession would not be felt as much in India. It would be felt. Saying that, we'll see how the stock markets open up today. They would, if usually what used to happen is 4%, 5% in those markets would again be the same here. Now, if we are being saved on that, you have to see that we are slowly, gradually not getting related to the Dow Jones, and the Indian stock market or the Sensex is actually working on its own. So I would personally feel that India would have a golden period in coming 10 years. So this is what is happening around the economy. But saying that, let's jump into the Bitcoin price for what we all have been waiting for. Now, getting into the Bitcoin price, I want to actually explain you certain things that's really important. But before we move on, please do like, share, and subscribe. Actually, before that, let's pull out the US dollar chart. Now US dollar, if you see, there's been a huge pump as well. But let's get on to the Bitcoin chart now. Okay, so pulling out the Bitcoin chart. Now, if you see, we had a green wick. Now this green has again been gone back to red. And I told you that this is the kind of resistance. I made this line that day. If you see, and then what happened, boom, we went back down, and it's the resistance that it hit. But saying that, you also have to realize that we've been hitting these targets every now and then. And and let me show you something really interesting, which has actually never happened in the Bitcoin chart before, which would be something like this. So if I draw a trend line, say around here to here, which is around slightly higher than this, we'll just draw it around 19,500. Now if you see, this was 19,500 was the all-time low or all-time high for the previous cycle, and we've always said that on the previous history, we've never gone down below the last all-time high. Maybe once we've touched it, but here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we've touched it 5 times. Now what does this mean? This means that 6th time if we touch it, we're gonna get weaker on it. So this has been, it's a major resistance we have at 19,500. Whenever we've touched, if you see, there's been no confirmation, but it's always been, bought out. So that means that this is a very, very strong kind of an area where the resistance is support is very strong. Saying that, if we go below that, the floodgates would open, and the resistance would become, the support would become resistance, and then again the same thing, that resistance would be extremely hard to break, and I don't think it's going to happen that soon. So we might have to go down in prices 12,000, 10,000, 14,000, and then get buyers from there. People would start buying in, and that is when we will be able to break this back again. But saying that, I mean, it's been for the first time that if we talk about 19,500 being, people not seeing the all-time highs of the last time more than once, we've seen it 5 times. 6th time or the 7th time, I am pretty sure we might be able to break this. But for now, I'm looking for a bounce again and then go back in. So this is exactly what is happening with all the other charts. So this is what happened with the Bitcoin, and that's what the market is. Ethereum, Solana, everything going down. So be aware slightly of the market and don't just get into it blindly. There's not much of bullishness. Tomorrow you might again see a pump. Again, don't get, that we're again going high, all-time lows have been done and we're again going high. No, it's a PPI data that would matter a bit, and we would have a certain bit of price point of view coming in, which would pump, and then again we're going down back. So this is what is happening with the Bitcoin market. And if you're liking the content, do like, share and subscribe, because we're trying to provide you with probably the best information possible, and we're not trying to pump the coins. We are trying to tell you the reality of the market and tell you how to trade in reality and not in a Moon Boy show. So thank you all for watching, and signing off, Gunpreet Singh from the Crypto Singh Show. Take care. Bye bye.